Hi, welcome to my home. My name is Kathy, and in today's video, I'm going to be making and canning up some homemade chicken broth. Making your chicken broth yourself is super easy, very inexpensive, and it's a great way to fill your pantry with good, nutritious food. So let's get started. So what I have here in the roaster are chicken pieces. There's a back. There were some pieces that from when I baked chicken, and we didn't eat all of it, so I just take the pieces, throw them in the freezer, and then the same here, just some backs and other pieces from when I've made chicken. And then I also have some chicken feet in here as well. This is very easy to make, and literally you can do it using scraps. Just take your extra pieces of chicken or parts of the chicken that you didn't bake up, throw them in a freezer bag, and throw them in your freezer, and then when you have enough collected, you can make your chicken stock. Or if you'd rather, if you have just a whole chicken and you want to throw that in and do it that way as well, you can. So to this, I'm going to add some carrots. These are just some baby carrots that were left over from a veggie tray that we had for dinner a couple weeks ago. And then I'm also going to add in onion skins and onion pieces and celery pieces. Again, as you end up with your onion skins and maybe some celery or carrots that just, outlived their life, throw them in a freezer bag and save them to use when making chicken stock. Nothing goes to waste. Okay, now to this, I have some garlic cloves here. I'm just going to give them a little pound to break them up, and then throw those right in, skin and all. You can also add peppercorn to this, ginger, maybe salt, but I did have some pieces of chicken in here that were seasoned, so I don't want to add too much seasoning at this time. I want to first cook it up and taste it to see if it needs anything. Because again, if you have a very neutral flavor, then you can add any flavors to it that you want when you open up the jar to use it. So now we're just going to get this filled with water, and then I will heat it up and then just simmer it for about 4 to 6 hours. You could also do this in a crock pot if you wanted to do a lesser amount. Just put it in your crock pot, set it to low in the morning. When you come home from work, you'll have a wonderful chicken stock. Okay, well, I actually let this go all night, and it's a nice rich broth now, so let's check it out. As you can see, it's a nice rich broth. It's reduced down quite a bit, and all of the meat and veggies have released all of their flavor. So now I'm going to get all of these solids out and prepare to get it canned up. So I'm just going to pull out as many of the solids as I can this way with the tongs, just to reduce the volume of solids. And then I'll get in there with this strainer. Let's get in here with my strainer. making your own broth, it's a good way of making sure that nothing goes to waste. Okay, for this next step, you can either, take the broth out of your whatever vessel you cooked it in, whether it be a pot on the stove or a slow cooker or a roaster, and you can put it into the refrigerator and let it cool down. And then once it's cooled, the fat will come to the top. Then you can just skim off the fat, reheat it, and then put it in your jars to can. Or you can do like what I'm doing. I'm going to use a fat separator. And the way this works is I just pour my liquid in the top. And there is like little strainer holes on the top, so it is straining it again to get any extra little bits out. So the way this works is the fat will rise to the top, and then once the fat is separated, I'll just push down on this little lever here, and there's a little plug in the bottom that will lift up, and it'll allow the stock to pour out from the bottom of the jar. I'll put a flour sack cloth over my funnel so that it'll get any remaining like pieces of vegetable or chicken out of it, so I'll have a clearer stock. You don't have to do that step. You can also use cheesecloth. You don't have to use the flour sack cloth. You can use cheesecloth, and you don't have to do that at all if you don't want to. It just makes it the end result will be a clearer broth by doing that. Okay, so I'm going to get my jars all filled, and I'll bring you back once that's done. Then I'll go through the canning process with you, and I'll also share with you a couple of ideas if you don't have a canner, if you don't want to can it. I'll share with you a couple of other ideas on how you can store your chicken broth. Okay, I think I'm only going to get 1 or 2 more jars out of this batch. I did change the way I was doing it. Instead of putting the flour sack cloth over the jar and strain it, I strained it coming out of the pot and into my fat separator. And what that did is gave me the ability to be able to see how much liquid was going into the jar. So it was a little challenging with the towel over the jar. And it also helped get rid of some of the fat before it even made it into the fat separator. I'm not going to lie, it was very messy, but I think it worked great. So this is how this works. You're going to fill your jars to 1 inch headspace. There. Double check it. Yep. And since this is, has fat, you want to clean your rims with vinegar. Make sure you don't have any nicks or chips. Or even any manufacturer defects in your rings or on the lip of your jar. Put on a lid. Ring fingertip tight and into the canner. Since broth is a low acid food, you do need to use a pressure canner to can these. I will be processing them for 20 minutes because they are pints. If they were quarts, I would do 25 minutes, but I'll do 20 minutes and at 15 pounds pressure, because that's the pressure that I need to use for my altitude. So please make sure you check your altitude in your canning book. Make sure you're following whatever your area's pressure is. For me, it's 15 pounds. So again, I'll get these processed, and I'll bring you back once I'm done so you can see what the final product looks like. But at this step, if you didn't have a canner, or you chose not to can it, or maybe you wanted to can some and not all, you do have a couple of other options. You could put your broth in jars and put them in the freezer, and you can freeze them. Just make sure you leave plenty of headspace, and maybe even leave the lid not on all the way until it's frozen, and then tighten it down. They'll last for months in your freezer. You could also just decant it up, throw it in the refrigerator. It'll last about 5 or 6 days in your refrigerator if you want to use it that way. You could also fill ice cube trays, and then once the cubes are frozen, pop those out, throw them in a freezer bag, and store them in your freezer. And then that way, if you just need a little bit of broth, you can just pull out a few ice cubes and melt them, and there you have a cup of broth. Another thing you can do is dehydrate it. So you can actually take the broth, lay it out on like the dehydrator trays that you would do for fruit leathers. As long as it has a little bit of a lip on it, just pour your broth in there and dehydrate it. Once it's dehydrated and it's it's all dry, you can throw it through in your blender, or if you have like a little grinder that you use just for things like that, grind it up, make it into a powder, and then you have like powdered bouillon. So there's lots of things that you can do with it other than just can it. So I'm going to get these processed, and I'll bring you back once it's all done. So here we have it. Out of chicken scraps destined for the trash can and veggie scraps destined for the compost pile, we have 13 pints of delicious, nutritious chicken stock. Well, I hope you liked today's video. If you did, please be sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you're not already subscribed to my channel, please subscribe and hit that bell icon to be notified each time I put out a new video. Well, until next time, I hope you have an amazing day, and we'll see you on the next video. Bye now.